Hi, welcome to our new podcast where Alexei, our sound designer, and I will talk about sounds for electric vehicles. Sounds are like smells. Each person hears and perceives them in their own way. How to understand what kind of sound will suit the customer? Where does the dialogue with the customer begin? Please tell me.
Hi, everyone. So, answering your questions, first of all, we discussed the concept with the client.
But what is a concept?
The concept is a raw idea, actually. Initially, I ask the customer several questions and then create several concepts around this idea.
For example, what questions do you ask?
Well, the first question is the most obvious. If the customer, in principle, has his own thoughts about how the brand can sound, it'll be some kind of natural phenomena or some kind of everyday action. A prime example is a well-known soda brand that is associated with opening the lid. So this is the first question. It's very simple and the customer has either already thought about it or not. So if the answer is no, I don't know, we move on to the next question, or I can help the customer come up with some ideas. The second question is how bright the customer wants the sound branding to be. Maybe they want something stylish, not flashy, or on the contrary, something that will attract attention on a regular basis. Like when transport is moving and people turn around, everyone has their own understanding.
By the way, just a question that came from Instagram. What is the difference between the sounds you make for electric scooters and the sounds for electric cars?
Well, the differences are radical actually. Let's start with the fact that the speakers that we use to install sound systems on scooters and cars, they differ in sound range and playback capabilities. The second point is that we must evoke associations between pedestrians and those around them. Everyone who hears this sound should have association with a certain type of transport. In order for a car that drives relatively silently at speed from 0 to 30 kilometers per hour should be associated with the car.
Let's continue with the questions that you ask the customers. By the way, do the questions vary depending on what type of transport the client has, the scooters, the cars, etc.?
Usually, in fact, questions do not depend on the type of transport. We're trying to define a vision for sound branding specifically. Therefore, this can apply to a scooter, a car, a bus, or a dump truck. Build concepts around the idea, and then we will find a way to package these concepts within the framework and limitations for each type of transport provides us.
So the next question is, how is engine operation generally simulated? As far as I understand, we create synthetic sounds, but people are more accustomed to hearing engine sounds, right?
Right. Each sound package is synthetic. It has three components along the frequency spectrum: bass, mid, and high frequencies. We try to logically break down the following. Bass components are the simulation of engine operation, precisely the most dynamic and bright layer that sounds predominant at low speeds. Why at low speeds? Because at high speeds from 10 kilometers per hour and above, the need for bass basically disappears. Firstly, they are camouflaged, and secondly, they have almost no effect on visibility. Mid frequencies are what we call a pad. This is a sound with a wide frequency range, which acts as a bridge between bass and high frequency sounds. And high frequency sounds are those that have the greatest impact on visibility. These are all sorts of discrete tweeters, bells, plugs, and so on. All these overtones that do not particularly affect the overall volume level, but at the same time affect visibility. As a rule, we provide customers from 3 to 6 concepts around one idea. For example, we once had a case when a client asked, well, they didn't have a clear understanding of how their transport should sound, so they offered several options: a live orchestra, bells, and a synthetic experiment. They asked us to do something that it looks like orchestration but not with live instruments. Therefore, we made 3 concepts around each of these areas, and we ended up with 9 concepts that were radically different from each other. In the end, the customer chose 2, orchestration and bells. So we made system sounds based on the bells samples, and the main sound package for the transport was made based on the orchestra samples, which very cool complemented each other.
Let's talk a little bit more about how sound generally affects the brand and why we try to put some much effort, labor, and emotion into creating sounds. I believe that's not just about safety, right? This means that people will recognize a specific company, a specific brand by sound. That is, they will create a certain perception of the brand thanks to the sound, right?
Human hearing is the same organ of perception as vision, smell, and so on, so don't underestimate this. Using sounds for a branding is an authentic way to make a statement and highlight your brand. Take operating systems, for example. Each of them has its own sound palette, which is associated with a specific company name. We have three core values, and we try to create our sounds packages within, say, triangle. These cores are safety, acoustic ecology, and brand recognition. And you can now rush into chewing on what does safe means, what does acoustic ecology mean, but both topics fall into European Regulation 138, a set of rules that guide us when developing sound packages. They are responsible for safety, that is, the sound package does not exceed any standards in terms of volume, frequencies, etc. And they help in terms of acoustical ecology. We do not pollute the city with the necessary noise, and at the same time, the system is at right level, so it won't take a piece from the safety. It makes no sense to chew on every term that we're discussing now, because it will turn into a lecture for several hours. Therefore, if you're interested in something, just ask in the comments or write to us directly. I'll give myself credit, I'm a fan of the sound package I made. It's called Transformer for Thor EV. As a big fan of the sci-fi genre in general, I've just always been delighted by the sound design of the Star Wars speeders that were made for the first episode. I usually tend to seek inspiration in different science fiction sources, mostly games and movies like Blade Runner, Pacific Rim. Gosh, there's so many.
Throne.
Yeah, very bright example.
And how the vehicle sounds for these movies were created?
It's a combination of art, references, and a lot of experimentation. In order to develop some sound idea, associations are usually used. Let's think about it. We have a transport is moving. What do I associate with movement? All kinds of texts that have some kind of motion effect or engine movement nature. It doesn't really matter. Let's listen to this. How does it sound? How does this sound? Let's try to combine this. Bam, something interesting turns out. Like a multi-fruit juice that is not associated directly with orange or apple, but something self-distinctive. Therefore, to create something unique, we take the ingredients, mix them, and they will either explode or something interesting will come out in the end.
Then the next question is, what is your favorite recipe? What ingredients do you like to add to your tracks?
No, don't ask. Different sources are good in their own way at their own time, so there is no such thing as, oh damn, this is the sound I love most, I will show it everywhere. This is not an onion or garlic.
So, maybe you like to add bells?
No, I'm more of a movement and dynamic sounds guy. For example, what it is for the Transformers sounds package, I recorded the creaking of the swing outside. More precisely, not a swing, but this kind of spinner in our backyard, which always infuriated me because the children go out there in the summer and start riding it, and I sit at home going nuts. One day I was passing it by and decided to record it, so it will be in my library just in case. I came home, processed the samples, and started to experiment with the pitch and modulations. And this creak has this metallic grinding sound. So the more complex the sound wave, the more interesting the processing effect then behaves, because it depends on this wave. Well, it turned out to be the basis for living metal, which no longer sounded like some kind of scum that creaks disgustingly, but still sounds like the sound of nature from this metal chaos. Yep.
That's when a problem becomes a creative instrument for something new and better. I think we had a great conversation. Thank you, Alexei. If you still have questions, You can write in the comments or contact us directly. Thanks to all. See you again.